Hey everybody, get ready to jump on some spikes and bow to your Spike King because it is Spikeman himself. Uh, I have a very big obsession with plaguing, and I love to play it every day. One of the plagues that I especially like is the Martian Flu. The description as it goes is the appearance of a strange sickness coincides with the return of an expedition to Mars. Kill humanity by adapting their bodies to Martian conditions with fatal consequences. Now, you could take this as a tutorial. If I do screw up, then you can use some things that I do in order to help yourself win. So, here are the modifications that you can make to your genetic code in order to help you gain an advantage in this plague. ATP boost, it gives you bonus DNA at the very beginning of the game. Genetic mimic, it makes it so that your plague is harder to cure, making it less likely for you to fail. Native biome increases infectivity in your starting country. This is very useful, especially in the country that you are going to start in. Extremophile, give your plague a minus bonus to all environments. So this will mean that you have more infectivity in rich and poor countries, urban and rural countries, hot and cold countries. All different types of countries. Doesn't really matter. Ionized helix. I recommend ionized helix because that's what I personally always use. But you can use translesion if you want. That could also help. Although, if you really want and make it so that your plague is a bit easier to cure, nullifying some of the genetic mimic, then you could use what I recommend, symptostasis, since it makes it so that the costs don't increase for devolving a symptom, but it does, again, like I had mentioned earlier, make it so that your plague is easier to cure. So yeah, I recommend ionized helix. Normal Martian flu. Mars expedition returns. NASA scientists returned from a successful expedition to Mars, bringing back many artifacts from which they hope to derive some insight into the possibility of alien life. See, this wouldn't happen in real life, because in real life, they would have actually kept the people locked in a specific room for a while. Especially if it lands, it wouldn't even land in the country. Just another influenza strain. Yes. Why don't you think that? It's probably influenza, maybe. On other news, a strain of influenza is currently sweeping the streets of America. Scientists warn that this strain is much more contagious than the common flu, and advise taking precautions to avoid infection. Of course, nobody cares about that. If you get the flu, you can just lay in bed for a while and you'll be fine, right? What could possibly go wrong? So as I mentioned earlier, you will need faster starting infection, and you will need and extremophile will be amazing for this, along with native biome, simply because you start in the U.S., which does have drug resistance, unfortunately. So the first thing I recommend you get is not a transmission. There's no symptoms yet, but I do recommend. I forgot to mention that the starting traits that you have are cold resistance 1 and 2, which would help tremendously. So later on, instead of getting 1 and 2 like you normally would, we would be getting heat 1 and 2. So for starters, you want drug resistance 1, since that is very necessary. Don't worry about this right now. Get that later when we start infecting more. We need air 1. Is the next thing to get. So we got air 1. Now, go with what you want, but personally, I would go with drug resistance 2. Because we need to start infecting US as fast as possible, because the US is incredibly hard to infect. So if we simply ignore that, then we'll be caught and then cured before we can even infect most of the world. Anyways, we got a little pop-up here. Pandemic danger exaggerated. World health experts announced that a global pandemic only has about a 2.5% chance of wiping out humanity. Now, they say that, but they don't realize is that they're actually in a simulation where an intelligent human is leading the plague. Anyways, we got enough DNA for drug resistance too. So go ahead and get that if you decide to. Let's see. You should get terrestrial adaption 1 after that. The reason why is that what is okay, yeah. The reason why is that you can get water. So the next thing you want is air 2, which makes it even better to go through the air. And after that, you might want to save up for terrestrial adaptation 2 to unlock even more traits. We want to keep unlocking. We want to keep going back and forth with this because eventually, I believe, we unlock symptoms. Yeah, like right here. Once we get symptoms, you should get at least 1 symptom. Oh, that's not good. The reason why is because symptoms increase severity, right? Well, severity happens to increase the amount of DNA you get per newly infected country, which is very good. That's what we want. So just keep pausing there to slow it down and then get that as soon as you can. And that'll make it easier to get that. So I recommend you get coughing or you can get either one of the bottom ones. It increases the severity a bit too much in my opinion. But I'd rather go for coughing because that also increases infectivity. However, that doesn't really do much. I don't know what I'm saying. Alright, so now that we've gotten that, you should start getting an occasional 2 DNA per. So I recommend saving up DNA till you get to 5. And then you can get sweating. And then you should start getting around 2 DNA per. So this is where you'd want to get some more water transmission. Because as it is, you won't be spreading by boats very fast. And there are, as you can see already, still several islands that have yet to. In fact, only 1. If I saw that right, only 1 is infected, which isn't what we want. After that, devolve anything else after that, unless you want to get really risky. But so next up is water 2. No, not water 2. So next up is heat resistance 1. And then we have a message. Shooting star sighted. A shooting star has been spotted making its way across the heavens. Incidentally, this is of no consequence whatsoever. Is this a sign that the plague is about to destroy the world, or is this a sign that they are going to win against this plague? Either way, NASA has been lazy and let the Earth be infected. Especially since we have Saudi Arabia. We want to get that infected pretty quickly. So that's 12 DNA. So we want heat 2. And then once we get heat 2, we should, I don't think actually Saudi Arabia matters, but we should get heat 2 anyway because of how slow it'll be. And now we wait. Once we infect the entire world, we can start working on more symptoms. As you can see, we mutated body ache. If it mutates body ache, don't devolve that. That's fine. Body aches is completely fine. As long as it's not like one of these big ones here, or that especially, or anything after the 3 basic traits. Anything after those or these bottom 2 traits is a no-no. Germany starts to work on cure. That's not good. It'll take a decade or 2 in order to cure us for now, but it's steadily going down if you look. We have all the islands infected except for Madagascar, New Guinea, and Greenland. Madagascar, there goes New Guinea. Madagascar is going to be infected soon. Greenland will take probably a bit longer, depending on how lucky we are. So like I thought, Madagascar would be first. Iceland is actually next, surprisingly. Now, if you get over 100 DNA, then you should. I wouldn't be against getting I wouldn't be against getting this if you want. I'm personally not go. I'm personally going to, but you don't have to. And on top of that, you might want to get one of that. Anyways, meteor strike. Reports are coming in that a meteor has just struck Earth. Although most of the space rock was burned up upon entry, a sizable chunk survived the journey to create a huge crater somewhere in the countryside. Now, I'm guessing this is to mean that infectivity, or a country has been infected by a meteorite from our disease, but I don't think that's how it is. Simply because by the time that pop-up comes, it's your plague will be like this all over the world. Bone effluentus. That is something we want to devolve. That is not something we want to keep yet, because we don't have a good portion of Greenland infected. Now that we have 155 DNA, we can work on getting genetic hardening. We're on watch list. That's not good. What's the year? 2024 is when we'll be cured. Greenland's infected dramatically, which is very good. Now, if you really want to, you can get water 2 and extreme bioaerosol, which will dramatically increase transmission. As you can see, infectivity is through the roof. Look, we're even getting DNA from how fast everything's being infected. However, that does mean that we have an awareness day, which we were probably going to get anyway, but it does make it, the faster you infect things, the faster people worry about you, is typically my experience. Now, you want to wait until there are no healthy people left in the world, like we just got. Now that we have that, you can do two things. You can devolve all this if you want more DNA, because you don't really need this now, especially with the abilities. Well, more specifically, these abilities. You can't devolve these, but you can devolve these. But I'm not going to. And then the first thing we want to get to is something lethal. For example, the fever. It's only a little bit lethal, but after that we have inflammation, and then total organ failure. We can go with dehydration after. Make sure you get sneezing. And then once we get both of those, we can actually get shortness of breath. And then once we kill enough people and get enough DNA, we'll be able to get asphyxiation, which increases lethality dramatically. Now, because we already have a lot of deadliness, we'll actually be able to get. You can get more things to kill people faster with. Personally, though, I'm going to get these, which helps slow research. Which also actually kills people too. We want to slow research as much as possible, because they can and will cure you very quickly if you don't know what you're doing. Luckily, I'm here to help. So we got that, which increases not a little bit, but it slows research. And we're also getting tons of DNA from the death, so that's good. Now at this point, they're dying quick enough in order to make it not a bad thing. It's going to be cured in 2020, but I mean, look at that. So so you can choose to use your genetic reshuffles on these right now to bring it down, and then you can save up more DNA, assuming. Again, if you want to devolve your transmissions, you can. That wouldn't be a bad idea, especially if you want to have a bigger score. But it's not really necessary. I'm personally going to wait until the last bit of people are there, or for something like that, and then I'll go and do that. Now we're at 32. Genome fully sequenced. I didn't get that last time. That's interesting. I didn't know I could. So we're at 34%. Everyone's basically dead. We got 5 million. And they're about to die. Close to extinction. 7,122,874,047 people are dead, but there's 1,669,915 people infected but alive. Key researchers are Sweden, Philippines, Iceland. The cure is going to be done in 2032, but that's going to change as time goes by. A lot of destroyed research. All right, now let's see who are the ones left. Surprisingly, there's a couple African countries left. Martian flu to eradicate humans. Martian flu has destroyed the world despite the world's best efforts. The last few humans lie dying in holes with no chance of survival. All right. Now let's see which. Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Martian flu has successfully eliminated all life on Earth. Now this video was not. It was did not have the goal of getting a full scoring, but did have the goal of simply getting through it. It is one of my. It is one of the better. It is one of the plagues that I like the most. It's not my favorite plague. However, my favorite plague would be. It's an easy one, but it's definitely a fun one. It is the anti-plague and anti-plague necrovirus. Those are my favorites. I definitely recommend them. But for the Martian flu currently, which is what we are supposed to be talking about, that is one of my favorites, and that was the Martian flu we just did. Definitely suggest giving it a try yourself and seeing if you like it yourself or not. You may jump off your spikes and go do whatever it is you humans do.